What's more perfect than exploring new cultures while soaking up the sun and dipping your toes in turquoise waters? Doing these things with your family and, of course, your brothers and sisters from Wisdom for the Blind. Wisdom for the Blind is pleased to announce its first Caribbean Forum to be held on board Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas. This dreamy vacation will be filled with thrilling experiences such as surfing, rock climbing, and even an electrifying 10-story plunge in the tallest slide at sea. This is not your average family getaway. There's fun and entertainment for all ages, but you'll also have learning workshops in technology and medical breakthroughs focused on the blind and vision impaired. We will sail from beautiful Miami on October 15th, 2023, visiting fabulous ports: Rotan in Honduras, Costa Maya and Cozumel in Mexico, and Royal Caribbean's private island, Coco Cay in the Bahamas. Add 2 spectacular days at sea, and while connecting with people that may experience the same challenges you do, you'll find unforgettable activities, make lasting memories, and soar to new heights. You'll learn about fascinating cultures and customs while tasting local delicacies and lounging in luxury. Wisdom for the Blind has also partnered with Operation Song, so you can have the opportunity to tell your service stories through songwriting. All of this and more starts at just $602 per person, based on double occupancy plus taxes and fees of $168. So what are you waiting for? Pack up your stuff, gather the crew, and head out on the open seas. You and your family will be talking about it for many years to come. Don't miss this great opportunity. Go to w4tb.org and find the button that says Caribbean Forum, or email us at forum@w4tb.org and book now. Space is limited. Don't forget to share the wisdom and tell a friend. You're listening to W4TB Radio from the Wisdom for the Blind Studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where we share some wisdom to help you navigate the seas to stay in calm waters. Please visit us on the web at w4tb.org or drop us an email at feedback@w4tb.org. You can also download the W4TB Radio app at the Apple Store or Google Play. Please share the knowledge and tell a friend. Now, back to the show.
You are listening to Share, the podcast that's all about helping empower the wisdom. From the Wisdom for the Blind Studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, here's your host, Mr. Douglas Cram.
Thanks, Keith, for that great introduction, and thank you for joining us on Share the Wisdom. My name is Doug Cram. Today we are speaking with Bill Brown from Valdosta Music, who creates guitar by ear and piano by ear. Bill, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
How's your weather there?
Oh, a little overcast, but as we were mentioning earlier, we have plenty of pollen, so something to wake up to.
We are in the dog days of summer here. It is hot, muggy, and we're getting our afternoon showers finally.
That's us.
The first thing I'd like to talk about is a little personal history, where you were born, where you went to high school, and if you went to college, where'd you go and what degree did you get?
Okay, well, I was born in Selma, Alabama, at Craig Air Force Base because my father was Air Force. And from there, we went to Okinawa till I was about 4, came back here, and then wound up in Valdosta about 1964, 1965. My mother was a classical piano teacher, so that was the background that I had as far as the piano goes. When I was about 7 or 8, she got me a guitar, and I really learned most of the music, the popular music anyway, on the guitar. And then went back to the piano when I was about 14, and then picked up the banjo along the way. And I was in school band, so I picked up my band instruments there. And then in high school, they gave me a bass guitar and said, go home and learn to play this. And I said, okay. And so in high school and college, I played bass in the jazz ensembles. When I got to college, though, I did not get a music degree. I just didn't think that would serve me for where I wanted to go. I had a pretty extensive music background. My mother being a classical piano teacher, I had all the classical education. So in college, I went ahead and got a business degree with the plan of taking that business degree and then going up to Nashville, Tennessee to Belmont and getting what they have, a music industry degree, which would be like a master's degree you would put on top of your BBA. I never got to Nashville, but I got plenty of experience here just because of the way that the internet started evolving, where you could really get information and also contact customers just sitting right here in Valdosta, Georgia. So the business kind of built out from here instead of me going to like your typical meccas like Atlanta, Nashville, or Memphis. And that's how we wound up here.
You said that your mother was a classical piano teacher.
Mm-hmm.
How much of an influence was she on your picking up the guitar, learning the guitar, and getting into piano after that?
A lot, because while she was classically trained, and I mean like seriously classically trained, her family of origin actually were all those hillbillies in Tennessee. So she had a love and background in all of that country music that came out of the Appalachian area. And so that was a strong influence on me too. She would teach me all those old songs. And then, of course, growing up in the 70s, being musical, a really interesting phenomenon occurred in pop music. It was an era of what we call fusion. And so what you would have if you listen to a typical top 40 station, you'd have a mixture of what sounded like country, sounded like rock, sounded like R&B, sounded like gospel. We had a mixture of all of it in just your mainline music. And so if you were learning to play, say, the guitar and even the keyboard later, you picked up all of these different influences in all the songs that you learned. So it was a good time to be interested in pop music because it exposed me to all the modern genres. And then, of course, too, I had all that classical in my background as well.
Can you talk briefly about her Hall of Fame award?
Yeah, she's in the Piano Teacher Guild Hall of Fame. And when I was younger, I had no idea what that meant. But that means she had to have a certain number of students that went to the Piano Guild and performed at a certain level consistently. And that's not easy to do. So she basically churned out some high-quality piano students. And I know some of them now who just do remarkable things on the piano and play at a very high level. And that's not an easy thing to do. So it speaks a lot, not just of her classical background, but of her ability to teach. And I picked up a lot of that from her, too, as well, because I was teaching at her studio when I was like 14, 15 years old. And so not only did I have her as a teacher, I also had her as a mentor as far as how to teach and just the basic methods that you use, where you have to kind of go between being a teacher and sometimes a coach and then sometimes just a counselor. And to be a good music teacher, you really have to be able to shift between all of those because you're dealing with a human being who wants this as badly as you do. You just got to find the best path for them to get there.
Now, were you teaching guitar or guitar and piano both or what?
At that time, I was teaching primarily guitar. It's when I went to teaching full-time in my late 20s, I'm here at the studio now that I'm at, that I started teaching piano and guitar, and then banjo and bass. I also teach mandolin. That's the main instruments that I get calls for. Ukulele went through kind of a little resurgence there for a couple of years.
Can you tell me about the school bands and pop bands that you were in?
Sure. So in junior high, they put me on the clarinet, and then they're moving from there to the other clarinets, like your bass clarinet, your contrabass clarinet, and then I picked up also the flute, and the baritone, which is a brass instrument, and tuba. My mother made the joke that she said she never knew what I would drag home from school when she picked me up each day. And then in high school, I started with the jazz band on saxophone because I was pretty proficient on that. Not as well as I thought I was, but they thought I was okay. But then they needed a bass guitar player because it was a jazz band. And boy, do you need a good bass guitar player for jazz. And so that really helped me to really work on my bass reading skills because we were handed charts So we actually had to read the music, and my bass reading wasn't up to snuff with my treble clef reading, but that definitely fixed that. And then with my pop bands, we played just mostly top 40, and my mother oversaw that. And I think she was concerned really because of some of the drug influence during that time period that was already kind of seeping into, your little garage bands and all that. So we had the band at my house, and my mother was kind of in charge of that. And of course, we got to pick the music we wanted to do, within reason. But she really kept a close watch over that. I think she was more aware of the dangers than I was because, we just grew up in your typical middle-class neighborhood. My dad was an officer in the Air Force, and I was pretty naive to the influence of drugs around me. But looking back, it was there. Even in my nice little suburban neighborhood, I can look back and find 2 or 3 of my friends that wound up, in trouble with drugs. And then, of course, in music, it was really prevalent.
I grew up in just about the same kind of household. My father was an officer in the Army. My mother was a piano teacher and a trained vocalist. So I had that same kind of music background.
Yep.
I heard an interview that you did on ACB Radio. How did you get with ACB Radio?
I guess they just contacted me and I said yes. I'm easy, Doug.
Did you know anything about ACB Radio at the time?
Not really. I talked to them a little bit, and it seemed like a pretty interesting group. So,
okay.
I feel like you're keeping something from me, Doug.
No. That's how I found you, was that interview. I recorded that interview and then started buying lessons off you after that. So that's how I found you.
Okay.
I heard one time that you have developed a way to listen to a song and then start diagramming that song so that you can teach note for note. Is that a trade secret with you, or can you share how you do that?
Yeah, it just kind of evolved. Because I was in charge of my own bands in the 70s, we didn't really have access to, the actual music that the artists were performing. You could buy sheet music, but those were more like piano arrangements, but it wouldn't tell you what the guitar player was actually doing or what the bass player was actually doing or the piano player was actually doing. And so you had to develop a really good ear to pick out all the parts that you could teach to your band members. And then, of course, for yourself as well. And so I developed a really good ear because I had to pick all these parts out without any help, actually. And then that just kind of evolved to where I can basically hear, a song on the radio. I could probably just hum just a few little parts. I could probably tell what key it's in within a half step. And then I could probably start writing out all the parts for every instrument on there without touching another instrument, just from hearing what key it is with my voice. Unless you do something really odd. But for most of your music out there, the chords are going to stay in the key, like your 1, 4, 5, 6 minor, your 2 chord, and everything's going to kind of work within the scale in that key. And so you can figure out really most of it just by listening to it before you even pick up an instrument, if you've had to do it a lot. And so that's where I picked up that skill. Well,
back then they did not have YouTube, so you could sit there and look at videos. So you must have developed your ear.
You did. And what's amazing about that is that when you learn stuff by ear, it's actually stored in a different part of your brain than if you learned it from reading music, which is why I get my students to do a lot of stuff by ear. And what it does is it associates the sound that they're hearing with a place on that instrument instead of with a dot on the page or a chord chart. And so we get into that pretty quickly early on with my piano, guitar, bass, banjo, all of that, because I want them to be able to know where that sound is on their instrument. I've even caught myself like watching a video of somebody performing a lead that I want to learn, and you just can't help but want to watch what they're doing, and it actually slows me down. If I just close my eyes and listen to what they're playing, I know exactly what they're doing. But they're, as a default, especially as somebody who's sighted, to go for the eyes, to look at what they're doing. But really, if you just close your eyes, you can hear what they're doing and know exactly where it is if you've been trained by ear, either just by somebody, teaching you to play by ear or just out of necessity.
At this time, can you give the guitar by ear, piano by ear, and Valdosta websites and your telephone number?
Sure. The Guitar by Ear website is guitarbyear.com. The Piano by Ear website is pianobyear.biz because the .com was not available. The main website, though, is musicvi.com. And our toll-free number is 1-888-778-1828.
Okay. I want to touch one more thing about ear training. You have an ear training course. Would you recommend that to a new student?
No, I want them to play the guitar a little bit first so they're kind of comfortable where most things are on the guitar, because I get you to recognize not just notes, like a general ear training course. I get you to recognize chords and chord quality, which would be things like your majors and your minors and your minor 7 chords. So it's not really suited for beginners.
Okay. Bill, we're going to take a break, so please stand by.
Okay.
Wisdom for the Blind is dedicated to doing everything we can for the blind and sight impaired. If you'd like to bless us with a donation to keep the website, the podcast, the webinars, and the radio station operating, we can't express how grateful we'd be. You can go to the website at w4tb.org. That's W, the number 4, tb.org, and hit the donation button. Or you can mail it to Wisdom for the Blind Incorporated. Attention donations. 1005 Marina Mile Boulevard, Suite 255, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33315. Wisdom for the Blind is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Remember, it's tax deductible. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts at Wisdom for the Blind. Are you a big geek? Do you enjoy learning about new technology? Then join us on the 4th Thursday of every month for the Wisdom Geek Club at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also hear a pre-recorded episode on Wisdom Radio every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. For more information, hit up w4tb.org and click on the Geek Club button on the main page. And don't forget to share the wisdom with a friend.
You're listening to Wisdom for the Blind Radio, W4TV, from the studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the home of the Wisdom for Blinded Kids portal. Please enjoy the show, and don't forget to share the wisdom with a friend.
Okay, Bill, we're back. Now we're going to listen to a lesson sample called the 27th May by Yeruma. Did I have that correct?
That sounds good.
Okay, we're going to listen to that now.
Now let's start at the beginning of the song. Section A, measures 1 through 16. Here are its first 4 measures, including the first pickup note, before we get to measure 1. So right hand, we're starting on the C above middle C with finger 1. And that's our pickup note. From here, we're going to go to the G above that with finger 4. With that left hand, we'll hit the F below middle C with our 5th. Sustain pedal up and down. Now we're in the key of F, so we can expect all the B's to be flatted. What's going to happen next is left hand will play middle C with finger 2. And then it will reach up to play the G above that with finger 1. With it right hand, I want you to play the A under your 5th finger. Then right hand, I want you to play the F under your 3rd, while the left hand crosses over the G to play the A above that with finger 2. The next right hand will play the E below the F we just played using finger 2. And what's going to happen next is we're going to go to an A and F. And this is the A above middle C with finger 1, and the F above that with finger 4. Hit it, hold it. Next, left hand will play the D below middle C with the 5th, and then we pick up the pedal and put it down again. So the right hand is getting to the D minor chord ahead of the beat. And so we got to make sure we keep it down so that when we hit the next measure in that D in the left hand and pick up the pedal and put it down again, we don't lose the right hand's A and F. After this, left hand will play the A above the D it just played with finger 2, then up to the E above middle C again with finger 1, and then cross over to play the F above that with finger 2. Next, right hand, I want you to play the G2 above middle C with your 3rd finger, and then the A above that with your 4th. And this is setting us up for this next chord. So right hand, this is the B flat above middle C with finger 1, F above that with finger 2, A above that with finger 4. Now I want to do this because the next note I need is that B flat under the 5th finger. And so I want to make sure I have a finger available to do that. If your hand can't quite make these stretches, just do the best you can. But if you can do this, this will be nice. So right hand, that's B flat, F, A. With the left hand, I'm playing the G below middle C with my 5th, pedal up and down. Next, left hand, play the D above middle C with your 1st. And then right hand, let's play that B flat 2 above middle C with our 5th, then the G below that with our 3rd, then the F below that with our 2nd, then we'll come back up to the G with our 3rd, keep it down, left hand play the C below middle C with your 5th, pedal up and down. Next, left hand play the B flat below middle C with finger 2, middle C with finger 1, cross over for the D above that with finger 2. After this, right hand, I want you to play the F under your 2nd, and then back up to the G with your 3rd. And that gets us through the first 4 measures.
Okay, Bill, can you just talk briefly about this song and this artist?
Sure. Yuruma kind of hit the main scene about the year 2000 with his instrumental music. His most famous one's called River Flows In You, and it was one of the ones that was considered for a theme for the Twilight series, which was a series of movies. And he's Korean-born. I think he actually is a British citizen as well. But what I like about his music, and I think what everybody else does too, is we call it like new classical. And it's a lot more complex than your typical new agey stuff, which would be just like... He's going to bring in some more sophisticated left hands. And so it's a left hand that's more typical of like Chopin than your new age artist and all that. And so it's really picked up a lot of traction. And there's another artist too that I have done a couple of pieces from called Einaudi, who is European. And it's that same style. And it's real beautiful, real melodic. And like I said, the left hand is a little more challenging, but of course it sounds better. So I think that's what's made him so popular.
Okay. We're going to get back to the questions. At some time, you had a visually impaired student come in. Can you talk about how that changed your way of teaching and thinking?
Sure. I'd already been recording these by-ear lessons for piano and guitar for my sighted students to take home and learn because I wanted them to learn songs by ear. But to teach a song in the studio by ear, it would take probably 4 lessons. If I could get them to take the recording home and work with it, they could probably have it, within a week or 2 weeks. But I had one student who was blind. He was learning them like 2 to 3 times faster than everybody else was. And at the time, we already had these by-ear lessons available on the internet and through magazines like Guitar Player, Piano Player. And we were selling those, on cassette tape and then later CD. But my wife made the comment, she said, if somebody was blind, this would be the way to learn, especially for the piano, but they would need a beginner course. And that's when I made the beginner course, Intro to the Guitar, for the visually impaired. And what it was designed to do was to teach them the basics of playing the guitar enough that then they could access these guitar by ear lessons that were already available. And at the time, there were probably maybe 20 or 30 that I had done for the guitar. And so that was kind of the goal for that, to allow people who are blind or visually impaired to get the basics so they could start doing this by-ear learning. And like you said, this was before YouTube. And what happened was the Library of Congress got interested in it and bought several copies. And so we realized that they were willing to buy whatever we made in that by-ear format because the National Library Service at that time was into basically buying books on tape for people who were visually impaired. And that way they could just check it out from the Library of Congress and not have to worry about procuring the copy for themselves. And so then we made the beginner piano course as well, Intro to the Piano. And the Library of Congress bought multiple copies of that. And they bought any of the piano by ear lessons that I'd already made. And so because I knew I was going to have them as a consistent customer every year, it kind of gave me the confidence to make more and more titles. And of course, they're available on the website, and people can purchase them all, from all over the world. But then, of course, the Library of Congress will then buy, several copies each year. And so that kind of keeps it funded so we can keep doing it.
Now, you talked earlier about the by-ear concept. Would you like to talk a little bit more about that, how you developed it? How did that help with the visually impaired student?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's more and more science coming out that shows that when you learn by ear, you're able to play by ear better. Because once again, you're getting the piece of paper out of the mix, and you're associating the sound that you're hearing with an actual location on the instrument. And that's what you want to do when you're teaching people to play by ear. And so as soon as you can get that piece of paper out of the process, the better. Now, with those who are visually impaired, what we're finding out through just the science finally catching up with what we're doing is that people who are visually impaired are much better at learning things by ear, because the part of the brain that would usually do all the visual stuff gets hijacked by the other parts of the brain. So your brain doesn't use any wasted real estate at all. So what happens is that people who are visually impaired have more resources neurologically for doing things by ear and also by touch. That's why people who are visually impaired have much better sense of touch than those who are sighted. And so the science is showing that people who are visually impaired are just going to do better at this regardless, just because they have better, or more resources rather assigned to it. And of course, the way that I teach, by leaving any kind of braille, print, video out of it, anything visual or tactile, it's all by ear. Here's what we're going to be playing. Here's where it is. And now you're associating what you just heard with what you did, and not with any other layer of communication in between that. And it makes people more able to play by ear.
Okay. What different styles of music do you teach and then have lessons for?
Well, for guitar and piano, you're going to find everything. So like on guitar, if you go to the guitar by ear site, you're going to see you have categories for pop, rock, blues, country, alternative, soft rock, and then a lot of guitar solos, because I have a lot of students who want to learn to play solo guitar. So there's a lot of fingerstyle arrangements, classical arrangements, flat pick arrangements, and those cover all the styles you can think of as well. And for piano, it's mainly piano solos that I teach on the Piano by Ear site. But there are a few that what we call Singer Pro. And what they are is the actual piano part that was played on the original recording. So like, let's say if you wanted to learn the piano part to Easy by the Commodores. I'm going to teach you the actual chord rhythm part that the pianist played. And of course, the latest one is that You Say by Lauren Daigle. So I'm teaching that one now to my piano students. And it's the actual piano part that was played on the recording. So it's not like a piano solo, it's the actual accompaniment. So they can use it to play with their friends that are singing.
Okay. How many different instruments do you teach? I know you have guitar, piano, bass. What else?
Yeah, for the intro to the whatever, for the visually impaired, there's 13 different instruments. So we have the piano, the guitar, the bass, the drums, the banjo, all three saxophones, your soprano, alto, and tenor, and all three ukuleles, soprano, tenor, and baritone. We also have the trumpet, have the flute. I have a course for the penny whistle as well, and the harmonica. That's a real popular instrument. So we have intro courses for most of your mainline instruments. But then, of course, the piano and the guitar really got built out, with more courses and then more by ear lessons because they're the more popular of all the instruments. And
how many total courses do you offer at the Music V site?
They're all there, the Music VI. This would be also a good time.
VI, sorry.
Right. Would also be a good time to point out that if people use the National Library Service, most everything is on there as well.
But I saw at one time that you had over 1,000 lessons. Has that been updated now?
Yeah, it's about 1,482 the last time I counted.
Wow.
Yeah, for the piano, there's over 500, and for the guitar, there's over 800.
That's pretty impressive. Okay, Bill, we're going to take a break again.
Okay.
Please stand by.
Do you enjoy a good time with your fellow brothers and sisters? Do you enjoy the fresh sea breeze? Do you enjoy deep sea fishing? Then Wisdom for the Blind has something just for you. On May 5th, 2023, Wisdom for the Blind has chartered the Double Eagle 3 in Clearwater Beach, Florida for an entire day of fun in the sun and deep sea fishing. Go to w4tv.org and register for this upcoming event. Check out our website and register now. Seats are limited. Please share the wisdom and tell a friend.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, 988 provides direct connection to free, confidential, and compassionate support. When you call, text, or chat 988, you'll be quickly connected to trained crisis counselors who will listen to your concerns, provide support, and connect you to additional resources if needed. There is hope. The Lifeline works. You are not alone in crisis. For 24/7 confidential support, just call, text, or chat 988.
You're listening to W4TB Radio from the Wisdom for the Blind Studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where we share some wisdom to help you navigate the seas to stay in calm waters. Please visit us on the web at w4tb.org or drop us an email at feedback@w4tb.org. You can also download the W4TB radio app at the Apple Store or Google Play. Please share the knowledge and tell a friend. Now, back to the show.
Okay, Bill, we're back. Now we're going to listen to a lesson sample of the song Red Wing by Maybelle Carter.
So let's start with just the first four measures. We're in the key of C, and in the style, you'll try to build the melody around the chord, and that way, whenever you have enough beats on a melody note, you can pick up a chord strum. So we're in the key of C, so I want finger 3 on the 5th string 3rd fret, finger 2, you're on the 4th string 2nd, finger 1, you're on the 2nd string 1st fret. We'll start though with the top string 3rd fret, so move your 3rd finger up there. Then we'll bring it back to the 5th string. We'll hit it, and then we'll have a down strum, aim for the first 3 or 4 strings. Then after that, we'll have this. Now what I'm doing there is I'm hitting the 5th string. Then I'm going to lift up my 2nd finger off of the 4th string, hit it open, and then hammer that finger onto the 2nd fret, and then play the 3rd string. So far we have this. Then while still holding down the C chord, I want to hit the 3rd string open, and then we'll have a down up strum. Once again, aim for the first 3 or 4 strings. Then hit the 3rd string again, and then the 4th string twice. Then we're going to grab an F chord. So finger 3, move down to the 4th string 3rd fret. Finger 2, go to the 3rd string 2nd fret. Finger 1, go to the 2nd string 1st fret. And you can go ahead and borrow the 1st string if you want to, even though we won't be striking the chord here. But on the F chord, we'll do this. So what I did there was I hit the 4th string, and then I hit the 3rd string open. So lift only the 2nd finger off. Play the 3rd string, then hammer that 2nd finger onto the 2nd fret. Come back and hit the 4th string, then 2nd string, 3rd string. So on the F chord. Now with the pick, I'm going down, upstroke, downstroke on the 4th, upstroke on the 2nd, downstroke on the 3rd. Then go back to the C chord. We'll hit the 3rd string, then a down up strum, then 3rd string, and then the 4th string twice. So here are these 4 measures again. let's take a look at the next 4 measures.
Okay, Bill, we're back. Would you like to talk about the Carter family and this song, Red Wing?
Sure. Maybelle Carter is probably one of the most underrated guitar players of her time, but she developed a style that we call the Carter scratch, and also sometimes what's referred to as flat pick playing. Let me grab my guitar. What she would do is use a thumb pick to play the melody, and then she would use a banjo pick on her index finger for an up strum, so she'd get this little pattern going. But then she could add the melody. So she basically playing the melody with the thumb pick, and then with the upstroke of the index finger playing the chord in between. And so that was kind of very instrumental to bluegrass music and basically developed into all the other styles that we think of, like even the Chet Atkins style. But that was Maybelle, and she did that solo for Red Wing. And so I picked that one for those 2 reasons. Number one, because it was Maybelle, but number 2, it's Red Wing. Everybody wants to learn how to play Red Wing, right? So that's the history on that one.
Now, that picking pattern that she developed, that's kind of different than the Delta blues picking pattern where you're doing that thud with a thumb pick on the bass string and then adding the melody in with your fingers.
Right. See, she did the melody with the thumb pick and then would use the upstroke to add the chord in. So you get this nice little fat bass solo.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's sweet.
Do you also sell multi-disc courses?
Yeah, the intro courses they're 3 or 4 CDs. That ear training course you mentioned is about 10 CDs, I believe. There is a piano course too, and what's interesting about this one is I did this one on purpose for the visually impaired to teach them how to pick out songs by ear. So what I do with that particular course is I teach people how to hear the melody for the right hand, how to discern the chord for the left hand, and then how to use the theory, we do some basic theory, for making educated guesses for what the chord probably is based upon what key you're in. So I'm really kind of proud of that course, in that it is an ear training course per se. It uses a lot more songs in it, than my ear training course for the guitar. But the whole goal of it is to teach people to pick out things by ear and to understand the underlying theory behind most songs that are out there. So I like that one. Also on the website, they can get package deals. Like I know there's a Stevie Ray Vaughan package deal, and I think I just did a Yeruma package deal as well. So if they want to learn 4 or 5 songs by Yeruma, instead of paying the price for 5 individual lessons, they can get a discount. And then of course the website too, once you reach $50, you start getting a 15% discount regardless.
Okay. Now, you wanted to talk about your business model. Can you do that now?
Sure. What I started offering some years ago was private lessons, but I would kind of rein in how many, because I could only do so many within a particular time period. And what the student would do is send me a recording of a song they want to learn to play, and then I would teach it in the by ear format for a fee. And it was more than, if they would just buy it off of the website. But they understood that while they were still paying more than what they would pay for a regular lesson, they were still getting a pretty good deal, because to record a lesson for them the way that I do takes, several hours. But then later on, I could then sell that lesson on the website and make some of the money back there. And of course, the National Library Service will buy it. And now I'm on audible.com as well. And so there's some income that comes in from that as well. So I can take a little bit of a risk at the front end if they'll help me with it by purchasing those lessons. And then I'll make my money up the road, hopefully. And I usually do. These all are really good lessons. People really enjoy them. But that way, too, it allows somebody who wants to learn a particular song right away the chance to get it at a much cheaper price than if they had to pay somebody to come to their house and teach it to them. But, of course, more than the typical lesson off the website.
Now, do you also teach lessons on scales, theory, and lead playing?
Yes, we have those for both the guitar and the piano. On the guitar, it would be called scales and chords. That would be what you look for. Lead guitar, it's called lead guitar 1, lead guitar 2, lead guitar 3. And it goes to the basic pentatonic in lead guitar 1, and it kind of builds it out and how you can use that one pentatonic scale for 3 different keys, for lack of a better term. And then the third one goes into modes, which everybody's interested in modes, but that's more of a diatonic scale. So that's what lead guitar 3 goes into. And the same for the piano. I have a piano improv 1, piano improv 2, and then there's scales and chords for the piano as well.
Okay. I still haven't mastered modes. That's kind of a stumbling block for me.
Yeah, with modes, most people teach it as just all these different fingerings. And really, if you understand that a mode is really just an existing scale that you already know, you're just emphasizing a different note in that scale. And it gives you just a different effect. Like if you were to take a C scale on the piano, which is all the white keys, but let's say if you built everything you were doing around just the F, still using all the white keys, and of course make your left-hand harmonies, your chords match up, you get this really cool effect. So I'm playing this F to G chord on the left hand, but you're hearing all these B naturals against that F chord. So you get this really cool effect, and that's a mode.
Now, I think the F scale, doesn't that have a B flat in it?
Well, it would if you played it in the key of F, but what we're doing is we're playing an F scale in the key of C. And that's where you get your mode. So a mode is a scale you already know. We're just emphasizing a different note in that scale to give you this totally different effect. And depending on which note it is that you're emphasizing, that's the name you give it. So in this case, it's the fourth note of the scale. So we would call this F Lydian. So whenever you see that term Lydian, you're basically saying, I am the fourth note of somebody else's scale. And so all of your harmonies are going to be basically out of the key of C, but you're never going to just hit like a C chord. That kills the whole mode thing. And so you get this really nice that's your Lydian mode.
Okay. Do you have a favorite guitar?
I've got two. I use my Taylor, my 514, which is a grand auditorium for most of the acoustic stuff. It's got a little bit wider nut on it, so it makes it more suitable for fingerstyle playing. And for the electric, I use that Line 6 Variax because it has traditional pickups on it like a Les Paul, but I can basically dial in like anything I want. Like, let me just show you. Like, here's the acoustic guitars on it, but I can hit a button and I get a 12 string. So it just allows me to move around from different guitar to different guitar without having to grab another guitar. And I'll use the Stratocasters on a lot. Use that kind of nasal tone that you think of when you think of a Strat. So I can just dial in whatever guitar I need for the recording. So it's very, very versatile. And this particular model, once you turn the computer off, you still have a Les Paul. So it's a very, very wonderful piece of equipment to have around the studio.
Back to the modes. Do you sell lessons on the modes?
I do. They should be on the website.
Okay. Last question. Do you have a podcast or YouTube channel?
I do have some YouTube videos that I did for my studio students, but I do them with descriptive audio. So while it's a video, I'm still describing everything I'm doing. So they are suitable for those who are visually impaired.
Okay.
And I would just go to Valdosta Music. If you go to YouTube, just go Valdosta Music, and it should take you to my YouTube videos. But yeah, I teach a lot of things on there, a lot of basic guitar stuff. I have a Guitar by Ear Basics video that I teach. So somebody doesn't necessarily need a beginner chorus, but they do need some idea of the terms I'm using. They can find that on there as well.
Okay.
So just go to YouTube and Valdosta Music, and it should pull up all of my YouTube videos.
Have you ever thought about doing a podcast?
I don't know that I'd have the time for it. It would be fun, but I'm really, and I am trying to really hand off a lot more of the business end. That was part of my decision with getting with Blackstone, who is my portal to Audible, but they're also a portal to a lot of other platforms for distributing the lessons. And that way I don't have to worry quite so much about doing that. And of course, getting the National Library Service in a really consistent relationship, that's kind of cleaned up a lot of things for me as well. And so as I'm trying to get more and more of that simplified, it allows me to focus more and more time on actually making lessons, which I've been churning them out here at a pretty high rate, even for me, which shows that I'm getting a lot less pressure from the other distractions of just running a business. So, yeah, if you'll have me back, that's fine.
Think about doing Seagull by Bad Company.
And then you'll let me back on.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. And now we're going to send it off to Ellie for some news and mail.
I took a musket ball in Chancellorsville.
Hi, I'm Mike Byer, Executive Director for Operation Song, where we pair Nashville's songwriters with veterans, active duty military, and their families to tell their stories through the process of songwriting. Our services are 100% free, and songwriting or musical talent is not required. For more information, check us out at operationsong.org. If you think this is something you're interested in, email us at contact@operationsong.org.
Till the last Monday in May.
Do you enjoy a good read? Or do you enjoy sharing new books with friends? Then join us on the second Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Wisdom Books, a virtual book club just for the blind or visually impaired. You can also hear a pre-recorded episode on Wisdom Radio every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. For more information, go to w4tb.org and click the link Wisdom Books for more information. And please don't forget to share the wisdom.
You're listening to Wisdom for the Blind Radio, W4TV, from the studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the home of the Wisdom for Blinded Kids portal. Please enjoy the show, and don't forget to share the wisdom with a friend.
Thanks, Doug. And to our listeners, thanks for dropping in today to share the Wisdom Update, where we bring you up-to-date knowledge of hot topics. My name is Bill and I am standing in for Ellie, who is out this week. Now to our first story. W4TV Radio is pleased to announce its new morning show. Drop in every morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest news, events, sports, weather and more. Now for some holiday cheer. Wisdom for the Blind and the Girl Scouts of Broward County, Florida delivered holiday baskets to blind and vision impaired veterans at the VA Assisted Living Facility. A special thanks to the girls for the baskets. I know that brought a lot of cheer to the veterans. Next, Wisdom for the Blind held a Field 2C Experience event in Franklin, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville on December 5th with our partners Operation Song. As Operation Song celebrated their 10th year anniversary with a concert, they were kind enough to provide Wisdom for the Blind a handful of tickets so we may share the great experience with blind or visually impaired veterans from the Nashville VA. One of the veterans who attended this event was Kathy, who wrote us to let us know how much her husband and her enjoyed the event tremendously. During another event, Wisdom for the Blind held the third launch viewing event on November 16th. The Artemis 1 finally took off with a flawless launch with a handful of veterans, family members and caregivers. The group had the opportunity to see it as it launched at 1:47 in the morning. During its first Field 2C Experience event in September, W4TB hosted 40 veterans, family members and caregivers to this 3-day event, where the participants had the opportunity to enjoy a day at the NASA Cape Canaveral Visitor Center, attend a private reception hosted by the director of the Johnson Space Center in Houston, and learn about the Artemis mission, in an overview with Tracy Minish, Mission Control Center Integration Outreach Specialist with NASA. Wisdom for the Blind also hosted a barbecue dinner with guest speaker Dr. Stan Love, an astronaut who flew on the shuttle. Dr. Love held an awesome presentation and kept the veterans' engagement to the max. Finally, the participants had the opportunity to enjoy the launch from a VIP viewing stand where they were able to view Artemis 1's attempt to take off, even though the launch was cancelled due to mechanical failures. The participants of the Field 2C Experience hosted by Wisdom for the Blind and NASA, allowing our participants to be ingrained with wonderful shared memories forever. We would like to once again thank our contributors and sponsors for making this event happen.
Hi, I'm Christina Hepner.
And I'm Leslie Hoskins, and we're hosts of the Taking the Lead podcast from Leader Dogs for the Blind.
Our podcast provides insight into the blindness community and impactful stories from our clients.
At Leader Dog, we continue to be the answer for thousands who need our free services. These include guide dog training, white cane training, and more. Once clients complete training, they're reintroduced to a life of safety and independence.
Learn more at leaderdog.org.
What's more perfect than exploring new cultures while soaking up the sun and dipping your toes in turquoise waters? Doing these things with your family and, of course, your brothers and sisters from Wisdom for the Blind. Wisdom for the Blind is pleased to announce its first Caribbean Forum to be held on board Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas. This dreamy vacation will be filled with thrilling experiences such as surfing, rock climbing, and even an electrifying 10-story plunge in the tallest slide at sea. This is not your average family getaway. There's fun and entertainment for all ages, but you'll also have learning workshops in technology and medical breakthroughs focused on the blind and vision impaired. We will sail from beautiful Miami on October 15th, 2023, visiting fabulous ports: Rotan in Honduras, Costa Maya and Cozumel in Mexico, and Royal Caribbean's private island, Coco Cay in the Bahamas. Add 2 spectacular days at sea, and while connecting with people that may experience the same challenges you do, you'll find unforgettable activities, make lasting memories, and soar to new heights. You'll learn about fascinating cultures and customs while tasting local delicacies and lounging in luxury. Wisdom for the Blind has also partnered with Operation Song, so you can have the opportunity to tell your service stories through songwriting. All of this and more starts at just $602 per person, based on double occupancy plus taxes and fees of $168. So what are you waiting for? Pack up your stuff, gather the crew, and head out on the open seas. You and your family will be talking about it for many years to come. Don't miss this great opportunity. Go to w4tb.org and find the button that says Caribbean Forum, or email us at forum@w4tb.org and book now. Space is limited. Don't forget to share the wisdom and tell a friend. You're listening to W4TB Radio from the Wisdom for the Blind studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where we share some wisdom to help you navigate the seas to stay in calm waters. Please visit us on the web at w4tb.org or drop us an email at feedback@w4tb.org. You can also download the W4TB Radio app at the Apple Store or Google Play. Please share the knowledge and tell a friend. Now, back to the show.
Thanks, Ellie. And thanks again to Bill Brown. This is Doug Cram. We share the wisdom. Go out and play some beautiful music. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Share. Please look out for the next episode ping soon, and visit us on the web at www.w4bv.org. This has been Share with your host, Mr. Douglas Cram. Produced by Wisdom for the Blind and VNS Productions, a division of VNS International.
Wisdom for the Blind is dedicated to doing everything we can for the blind and sight impaired. If you'd like to bless us with a donation to keep the website, the podcast, the webinars, and the radio station operating, we can't express how grateful we'd be. You can go to the website at w4tb.org That's W4TB.org, and hit the donation button. Or you can mail it to Wisdom for the Blind Incorporated. Attention donations. 1005 Marina Mile Boulevard, Suite 255, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33315. Wisdom for the Blind is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Remember, it's tax deductible. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts at Wisdom for the Blind.
You're listening to Wisdom for the Blind Radio, W4TV, from the studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the home of the Wisdom for Blinded Kids portal. Please enjoy the show, and don't forget to share the wisdom with a friend.